Good morning. Welcome back in. Thank you again for those of you that are joining us. Thankful for this opportunity to be here with the HSAA and presenting, the software solution that we've been working on with many of you for several years. Again, just thankful to be working with all of you. So what we're going to go through here in this first session is how setting up your account and kind of getting your school rolling, and just kind of all of the necessities of, all right, we're getting here, we're in a new system. How do we actually get it all set up? So the first thing that that you'll need to do, obviously, is to create an account. And just as a reminder, we will, all administrators, all coaches, everyone, all the faculty members at the school will need to create an account. To do so, you will visit dragonflymax.com. Hit that login and sign up button in the top right-hand corner, just as Clint is demonstrating for us here. And I won't make you watch me walk through this entire process, but you'll create your account using your name and your email address, preferably a school email address, just makes it a little easier for us to track, especially for things like coaching credentials and as we go through the approval process. Complete the recaptcha. You'll receive a verification code at that point that you will type in on the next screen. And then you'll get a confirmation email that lets you know that your account has been created successfully. At that point, if you are the first person from your school in the system, you will need to be approved by a member of the Dragonfly team. And so we've got our folks in the support center are always there monitoring those new accounts, those new sign-ups, the new organizations that have been created. So again, if you're the first person to create that account, then we will verify that on our end. If you are the second person or the fifth person or the 10th person, anyone after essentially that first administrator at the school that has created the account, then you, that first person that set it up, is then responsible for approving those individuals into the system. So just again to repeat it, if you're the first person in at your school to create your account, we will verify that on the Dragonfly end. After that first person, every other individual that signs up to join that school will need to be approved by another administrator that's already in that school. For the approval process, and Clint, if you'll roll back to that screen you were just on, any of the approvals. So we can approve you can approve after that first person is in. You click on that person's profile, you go to their account, and you either click the approve, or if this person is not, maybe they mistakenly chose your school. For example, we have, like Central High School. There may be more than one of those in the system. They may have mistakenly chosen your school, and so make sure you verify that person that's actually requesting access is in fact a part of your school. So once you approve them in, obviously now they have access into your organization. A couple of other housekeeping items on that approval process. The parents, and we'll go through this and show this in just a second, the parents will actually go in and create an account and then fill out the forms for their child. So the approval process will actually be attached to the child's name. We've set it up that way just to make it a little easier for you coaches and administrators. Often you're going to know the names of the players on your roster, the part of your school. You may not, in fact, know the name of the parents, though. So just to make sure that we bring that to you in a way that kind of makes it easier for you to track down, hey, who is this? What teams do they belong to at our school? We go ahead and attach the parent and the kid on the front end when the parent creates that account. So you can see here, if you need to go and take a look at your parents, Clint is showing you across this screen on the checklist here the individuals that would, the different user roles inside the system. And we'll get back a little further into that in just a second. But, okay, we've gone through the account process now. And for many of you, especially with it being new technology, there's going to be some learning curves here. Obviously, we're working through some of those today as we're going through the presentations and showing the system. But I want to show you a place where you can go back and get additional help once you have already established your account and you're in, and maybe you know the basics, but you need to go back for a refresher on certain items. In the bottom left-hand corner of your screen at all times inside the Dragonfly website, no matter where you are, what activity you happen to be performing, there is that red circle in the bottom with a little smiley face in it, and that's our help center. So that's a place where you can go to do a number of different items if you're confused or kind of lost inside the system. So the first thing you can do is you can just kind of keyword search around the different articles that we've written. So we've put in different different items here, kind of the frequently asked questions. So if you forget your password, then you come in, select password, and it'll walk you through how to change your password. It's got written instructions and screenshots that will help and assist you through those different processes. Now, an important reminder here is obviously we are reliant on parents on some of this to submit paperwork. Not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, the system's going to work better if you involve your parents as coaches and administrators, because it's going to allow them to submit the paperwork to you, and then obviously you just go through the approval process. But with that comes a lot of questions. We open up kind of the surface area of the software to a lot of different users. Send your parents here to this help center as well. If they need to know how to add a child, if they've forgotten their password, if they need to create, maybe they've got multiple kids and they're unsure, hey, we filled out the first one for the high school and we need to fill out forms for another kid at the middle school. All of those types of questions, they will inevitably come to you, but you can reroute them back to us through the help center. So the help center is here not only for you, but also for your parents and coaches and everyone else inside your system. Now, the other options that you have here within the Help Center, not just the searching on the keyword and the articles, but you also can start a live chat with us here inside the Help Center. You can see the smiling faces that are kind of across that panel there. We've got Terrell and Brandy and Rachel and Ryan, myself, and Jake that are displayed there. So those will alternate the faces that you see, but there's always someone there waiting to take your question, to help you. And go ahead and click that Send Us a Message button, Clint. We won't walk through the entire process, but this will allow you to actually submit a question into the Help Center for live help from one of the Dragonfly representatives. Again, that'll kind of be broadcast out to all of the team members here at Dragonfly, and then we will get back with you to answer your question, to follow up on any issues you may having. And sometimes this may not be just a question. As Kirk mentioned earlier in his introduction, hey, this is software. I believe we pushed out 3 new deployments just last week. Not all of that is always noticeable, but with all those deployments, with all those feature changes, with all of those updates, there's a chance that we broke something. And there's a pretty good chance that on occasion you're going to run into a bug. Something's going to be slow loading. The screen won't display right. Those types of things are going to happen. It's a guarantee. We're not perfect. We try really hard, but we're not perfect, and there will be mistakes. But we need you to let us know about those things. Preferably you don't come in yelling at us in all caps and exclamation points. But hey, sometimes maybe if you're in a rush and in a pinch, maybe you need to do that. But report anything that seems off to us inside the Help Center. Again, if maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just a new deployment that you're confused about. Hey, why did this button change? Why did it move from this side to that side? All those types of things, we want to know those things. Not even just any bugs or questions that you have. We want your feature suggestions here. So again, a lot of you I think are accustomed to phone support, and not that you can't get that at Dragonfly, but we do encourage, and we openly encourage you, start your help and your customer service journey here inside the Help Center. The reason for that is we can keep an accurate count of, we have seen this bug reported 20 times over the last 15 minutes. That means all hands on deck, Dragonfly. Stop what you're doing. Let's go fix this and get it deployed. Likewise, on the side of the feature request. Well, if we kind of get one-offs, hey, you call us in here in May and give us a feature suggestion, somebody else calls next month, and those kind of disparate feature requests that come into different Dragonfly team members, it's hard for us to consolidate that type of stuff and keep an accurate count and accounting of what is it that the customer is asking for. And that's basically how we drive all of our development here in Dragonfly is what is it that you're needing, what are you looking for, what can we do to make your job easier. Again, echoing back to what Kirk was saying earlier, this was all kind of hatched out of Hartselle, Alabama from looking at Pat Smith at the AD at Hartselle High School, just buried under a mountain of paperwork. And we were there to kind of help and give him different methods and different tools that could make his job easier. So make sure you use that Help Center as much as you possibly can. Now, the last resource, or one of the other resources that you have here, is Dragonfly Academy. If you are brand new to Dragonfly, I recommend this is the first place that you start. Don't shut down this conference just yet to go and run through Dragonfly Academy. But as soon as we're done, if you're brand new to it, this will be the best place for you to get going. And so this is actually a training course that Rachel Merritt on our customer engagement team has put together that is specific to each and every user role inside our system. So if you're a school staff member, meaning an AD or a coach, you have your specific courses here. So if we click that Get Started button, you'll see that it kind of branches off into, hey, are you an athletic director or are you a coach? And so we can take those different branches. So Clint, if you'll click that athletic director to kind of dig in a little further on what actually is contained here inside Dragonfly Academy. Now, this is broken down. We'll cover a lot of this stuff over the next couple of days in our presentations. But if you need to go back and review it, you've got these kind of on-demand training sessions here where you can come back and, hey, I don't remember exactly what the Dragonfly team said about setting up student profiles, or how is it, again, that I review those eligibility documents. So any of those types of questions, come back to Dragonfly Academy, find your user role, and walk through these courses one at a time as time permits. I would also encourage you, as I mentioned earlier, we've got a help center there for all of your staff members, your coaching staff, your athletic trainers. You've got all those people there that they're trying to learn a new system too. Let us help you with that. Send your coaches to Dragonfly Academy. Send your parents to Dragonfly Academy. Send all those staff members to us, and at least let us walk through, or have them walk through each of these courses as time permits. And again, if you look through here, you've got ways that you can print these instructions if you'd prefer to print those out and walk through kind of step by step on a PDF. Or again, we've got videos that actually captures the screenshots in the software and walks you through the different processes inside our system. So make sure you utilize Dragonfly Academy to its fullest extent. And of course, when we release new features, we will drop new Dragonfly Academy courses in, and it will be in the context of that specific user role that you happen to be interacting with. So now let's kind of move out of the Help Center stuff. Again, make sure you bring those questions and feature requests back to us in the Help Center. But let's actually move into some of the software here. So, let's fast forward a little bit into, all right, we've created our account, we've set up our school, we're in as an athletic director. Well, then what do we do? The first thing that you want to do as an athletic director, even before you send out information to your coaches and parents, is go to this Set Up Teams tab. And Clint, if you'll actually put us in Dragonfly High School to go through in the demo account here, so we can kind of see it from a school's perspective rather than the association. Okay, so here in Dragonfly High School, let's go back to the Today screen and show them how we got to this Set Up Teams tab. So when you get logged in, you've been approved, you're here on your Today screen. The first thing you need to do as an administrator at your school is set up your team. So you'll hit that Schools and People icon over on the left-hand side. And then across those row of buttons that are in blue across the top, go to Set Up Teams. So there will be two actions that are pretty important actions that you'll perform here from this Set Up Teams tab. The first of those, obviously, is the name of the tab. You'll set up all of your teams. So the reason this is an important first step for you and your coaches and your parents and your athletes is because when they come through and register and select that they're a member of Dragonfly High School, they will also select all of the teams that they are a member of at that high school. And just as a reminder, inside our system, athletes can be a part of multiple teams all at the same time. So when the parents register, they can go ahead and register for fall, winter, and spring sports all at the beginning of the year during the summer when they're getting that stuff turned in. And then it's available for all of your coaches from that point forward. But the reason that set up teams are important is so that when they do go in and register, and your coaches can select, hey, I'm a coach of the baseball team. I'm a coach of the women's volleyball team. Your women's volleyball roster then goes and registers. You send the information home to your parents. Parents register. They select, hey, my daughter's a part of the women's volleyball team. So that's why it's important here in the beginning to set up your teams, is because, hey, that's what everyone else is going to utilize to kind of categorize themselves as they register in the system. So if you'll show Clint setting up, so hit that Set Up More Teams button, and you can select from our predefined list here. Now, I will say, as an AHSAA school, you should select all of your sports for your varsity level sports, the one that you're going to declare, from this list. We'll show you later if you want to set up some custom teams, how to do that, to maybe manage the band at your school or some of your other activities if you've got debate and those sorts of things. We'll show you how to set those up. But initially, choose from this list, because this is also going to be where you will declare your teams. So again, if you need to come in and add additional teams, you come in and just use these check boxes to select the sport as well as the competition level. And you select any that apply to your school. Obviously, if you're at the middle school, you'll select the junior high or middle school or 7th or 8th grade, just however you want to categorize those. But this will be where, number one, you will select your sports. And then after you've selected all your sports, obviously part of the process every single spring, or I guess every single semester, is that we also declare those sports. You will do that from inside this same list. So you go through, add all your teams, and then you'll get the email from Marvin Cho or members of the AHSAA about, hey, now it's time to actually go in and declare your sports for the fall or for the winter or for the spring. To do that, you're back in this same Set Up Teams list where you manage all of your teams, and you'll click the Edit button over on the far right-hand side on the row beside the team. And if you look right there in the middle, there's a big blue button that says Declare Now. And we will sync that up with the AHSAA based on their declaration schedule. So we'll open those up per semester when it's time for you to declare those sports. And of course, you go in, select the team and the level, and you make those declarations once you get those instructions from the AHSAA. Again, this is the importance of setting up your teams is that's because when everyone else gets in and they sign up to register for your school, they're then going to select their sport. Again, for those of you that are just getting started, another kind of important point is after you set up your team, so as an athletic director, you obviously can go through that approval process and approve every single person that signs up. That's going to become a pretty arduous process for you as an administrator. The recommendation from Dragonfly is you set it up as an athletic director, then you put your coaches in and set them up and approve them into the varsity baseball team, and then you have your varsity baseball coach go in and approve all of their athletes into the system. It's just a little easier that way. They know their roster, they know those kids' names, and they know which level to put them into. Where you as the administrator, you got a lot of stuff to cover for a lot of different kids. So that's just a recommendation from us. You as the administrator get in, put your coaches in, and then allow your coaches to approve their roster of kids into their teams. All right, so we've got in, we've created our account, we've created our organization. Now it's time to start the eligibility paperwork, the registration process for the parents and the athletes. And so the thing that I recommend doing after you set up your teams, step 1 is set up teams. Step 2 is go and find this sign-up handout in the top right-hand corner of our website that Clint is circling there. Go ahead and click on that if you don't mind, Clint. And this is going to open up, and this is going to provide you step-by-step instructions, again, for every single user role inside the system. Obviously, your biggest challenge here is going to be your parents and your athletes, getting them into the system, getting them to fill out the paperwork. So have them hang over on the left-hand side of this list here where it says parents and students. As an important reminder here, this paperwork, and I'll remind you of this as I go throughout the presentation today, this paperwork can be completed from a web browser. Obviously, that's where we're showing you everything today. But if your parents or athletes do not have a web browser at home, they don't have a desktop or a PC or a laptop that they can utilize to complete these forms, this can be done from a mobile app. So certainly there's going to be special circumstances where there are some parents that don't have access even to a smartphone. Chances are, though, the parents that are resisting filling out that electronic paperwork, telling you they don't have a method to do it, they've got a Facebook account. And so if they've got a Facebook account, they can fill out the Dragonfly paperwork for their athlete to get that submitted for eligibility purposes. And so you may have to play a little bit of hardball with some of those parents to get them to submit it to you. But just remember, it makes your job exponentially easier on the back end as a coach or an administrator if you have your parents go through this process. So after you pull up this sign-up handout, again, you've got the options here that you can email this out to all of your faculty, staff, parents. You can print it out and send it home for those of you that are in person and meeting. So you got different options here, but I would recommend probably as many different methods as you can send this out, both email and hard copy, handed to your athletes. Probably a good idea here. But again, it walks each and every user through their specific instructions for their user role. So we can go ahead and exit out of that. As Clint pulls the software back up, I do want to remind everyone that you need one Dragonfly account to be an infinite number of user roles in the software. So what I mean by that is for a lot of you, maybe you serve as an athletic director at the middle school, you're also a coach at the middle school, you're a coach at the high school, and maybe you even have you're a parent of athletes that are participating inside the AHSAA sphere. And so you need to have all of those different interactions with our software. Well, you can do that from that same account. So before we kind of get into the rest of the checklist and paperwork, let me kind of highlight, hey, you've gotten in, you set up your school as an AD, but now I need to add myself as a coach. I need to add myself as a parent. To do that, to add any user role or any organization to your account, you click on your name in the bottom left-hand portion of the software, click on My Info, and that's going to take you into your personal account inside the system. Now, everyone inside Dragonfly, as I mentioned earlier, needs to have an account, and they'll all have a profile that looks exactly like this. Now, this one is obviously our demo account, so we're attached to a lot of different schools and a lot of different user roles, which is a good illustration of where I'm going with this. If you need to be a member of 5 different schools because you're a system level AD, you can do that. If you need to be a member of 2 different schools as an AD and a coach, and 4 different schools as a parent, and you're a contest official, remember, we're building out this one-stop shop that every single role that is played within an AHSAA event can be handled through the Dragonfly system, and you can do all those from one account. So to connect to another school or to add another user role, you go to your profile, hit this Connect to School or Association in the top right-hand corner, and just like you did upon initial sign-up, you will walk through, I'm trying to sign up as a parent. I'm trying to sign up as a school staff member. I'm trying to sign up as an official. And you'll just walk through adding, I need this user role at this particular school. And you'll do that as many times as it takes to get all of those different user roles attached to your account correctly so that you are, again, interacting through the software no matter what you need to do from that same account there. So, again, if you're a coach, select coach, and then you can walk through typing in the name of the school that you would like to attach to. Obviously, everyone that's watching this broadcast here today is going to select Alabama, type in their school, and then just back to the very beginning of what I said in the account creation, if you're the first person to set up an account at that school, then Dragonfly will approve you. If you're anybody else after that first one, then one of the other admins at that school can approve this access request in. So you get all the details right, and you send it through, and then it's going to let you know here, hey, there's this person on the other end that can now approve your access request to let you into that school. All right. So we've gotten our user roles attached here. We've set up our teams. We've found our sign-up handout. We've sent that home to our parents and our coaches and the rest of our admins, our athletic trainers, our bookkeepers. We've sent that information out to get everyone connected up. They've chosen their user role. And now it's time to actually manage this eligibility process. So we send that information home. Again, when those folks go through and they follow that sign-up handout, they're going to come in as an access request where you can approve them in. So if we need to approve Jimmy in, we could do that there. But let's move past that since we've already gone through the approval process and actually dig in to this checklist a little bit. So what you're looking at in this checklist is essentially a snapshot of your current eligibility for both your athletes and coaches. We'll take a look at your coach eligibility tracking in just a second. But this is a real-time snapshot of exactly where all of your athletes stand in the process. So let's kind of take a look here. You can see that for John Apple, he's got most of his check marks, checked off there. You can see for Sunshine that she's got a lot of red, a lot of empty boxes, and so that's letting us know, for that first column there, our participation agreement, the consent that everyone must sign to participate in AHSAA. This form has not been filled out by Sunshine. So there's no check in the box. That's your first indication that has not been completed. And then you can obviously click on that, and we'll go back to the review screen here in just a second. But let this, especially for you admins, you're going to spend a lot of time here in this checklist on this screen pulling in the information. And remember, you sent home that sign-up handout, and this information got here not because they brought you those hard copy forms back, but because you sent home that sign-up handout, the parents followed the instructions, they created an account for little Seth Avett there, and then that submitted that paperwork back to you. And so that's how these check marks get filled in. So as we send that sign-up handout home to Seth's parents, and they come in and fill that out, in real time, as his mom and dad fill that out, it's going to fill in those check marks. And so before we get into the actual kind of overlay, the review process, a couple of other items here that you're viewing in this particular checklist. Number one, if the kid's name is in red, that is an indication to you that kid is not eligible for participation. Full stop. So if the kid's name is in red here, they should not be participating in AHSA events. Now that doesn't mean that there's not something going on that, hey, they've got everything in, but we had a academics issue, or that they have a new piece of paperwork that they turned in that actually hasn't been approved yet. So it doesn't mean that they can never participate, but at that moment in time, again, this is a snapshot. So you see all those red names on the left side of of this checklist here. That lets you know you got a bunch of ineligible kids here in your inside your school. So let's go in, and Clint, if you don't mind, those buttons across the top where we can select our specific teams. So by default, when you log in, you're going to be viewing all of your sports. But, obviously we move through seasons, and we're going to be selecting right now, hey, we need to take a look at volleyball. We need to take a look at football, those fall sports and their eligibility. So let's take a look at varsity football. So across the kind of drop-down lists and menus across the top, we can toggle to take a look at different teams. And we'll go back in just a few minutes and show you how we can actually check off coach eligibility on top of the athlete eligibility. So here we are looking at our varsity football team. And again, this is pretty straightforward. We've got John Apple that's turned in a lot of his stuff. And then we've got Kurt Love down there toward the bottom that's got a lot of blank forms that haven't been turned in yet. So again, once they turn all that information into you, you're going to get a check mark here in this box, and that name will turn black, actually. When they get all their stuff turned in sufficiently, they've got their academics hooked up, that name will turn black, and then we'll show you in just a little bit how then you'll move on to PC and roster that individual. But first, let's go through, hey, what are all the actions I can perform here? What can I actually review from this screen? So first of all, let's go through, just click on any of these requirements, Clint. Let's pull it up into that overlay screen. And so this is not one that's been entered in here. Let's see if we can find one of the documents that have, someone's actually completed. You may want to run back to, there we go. So all of you are familiar here with this concussion form. So again, you sent home that sign-up handout. Seth Avet's parents went in and filled out that concussion form. They signed it, and in real time, you got feedback in this checklist that Seth Avet has completed his concussion form requirement. Now, other things that you need to know about our system. Again, we're really pushing do this digitally, do it electronically. The other benefits of having your parents do this electronically is that you can rest assured, if it's done digitally, that is on the correct form, it is on the correct year. So the AHSA updates their forms every May. They go through the medical advisory committee. Sometimes they make changes, and they'll update that watermark. They'll update the language on the concussion form, and that has a tendency to trickle out. So we've got some old physical forms floating around. We've got some old concussion forms floating around. So if you do it inside our system, you know that it is done on the correct form for that particular school year. So we will work with AHSAA to make sure that we keep all of those forms up to date as they go through their board approval process each year, and we'll get those to you, immediately as soon as those pass through approval. Second benefit to having your parents do these forms electronically is if they're done electronically, they can't submit to you impartial forms. And what that, from your standpoint, you've all been in the boat either as a coach or as an athletic director at one point or another where you send home a packet of 8 forms with every single one of your athletes. And inevitably, there's 5 or 6 of them that walk back in and only hand you 4 forms of the 8 that you sent home. And one of those, they didn't even bother to do anything other than write their name on the top of it and turn it back into you. And so then just for that one athlete, hey, we've got 8 forms for every athlete, but just for this one, I'm going to hold on to these 2 that I got back, and I'm going to have to send home the rest of those others, even the one that was partially filled out, have them complete it, bring it back to me, and there's this back and forth with these paper forms that you got to make sure that it's on the right one. You got to make sure that the full stack comes back to you. You got to make sure that they've answered every question, that they've placed a signature on every single one of the forms, both the student and the parent. And so there's this long back and forth typically with the forms process that we're trying to eliminate for you. So you have your parents do these forms electronically. It's always going to be on the correct form, and we're always going to make sure that they have to fill out the entire form, start to finish, every blank, every signature, every date, even down to on the health history. We won't allow them to submit the health history to you without giving full explanations on any of their yes answers. So just some of the more convenience that comes with the using the digital forms process. Couple of other items here. So if you're an athletic director, if you're a coach and you're in this kind of overlay screen and you're looking and you're going through your review process, I can bounce from athlete to athlete or from form to form using different actions inside this checklist. So across the top where Clint is kind of highlighting, if I wanted to check all concussion forms for everyone that's on my team, I can just keep clicking next. So go ahead and roll through that. So now we know Seth has filled out his concussion form. Rolando has not filled out his concussion form just yet. So we can kind of go through athlete by athlete on the concussion information, or if we go back to Seth, we can roll through Seth's entire packet of forms all at one time here by clicking that next button. So Clint will show you there how we can click next. And now we know, all right, Seth's completed his concussion form. He has not completed his health history form. So again, we can just kind of roll through each of those forms. and we'll go into kind of what's displayed here on the screen here in just a second. But there's different ways, again, in this review screen to move up and down through that checklist or through a kid's entire packet of information just by kind of staying here in this review screen without having to come back and forth in and out of it. All right, so let's go back to the checklist, Clint. Other items that you see here in this checklist. So let's, on John Apple, across the very top, you see that there's a number 1 right there inside that box for John's health history. What that is, another benefit of the system here and what our system is doing for you is we're actually flagging any portion of that kid's health history that might be a cause for concern, that might, something that you definitely want to go and review, check out this kid's form, maybe talk with the medical staff about this particular kid. So Clint, if you'll go ahead and check, click on that form. So here we are back in this review screen, in this overlay. We had that indicator that said a 1 in the checklist. That's a flag to us. Hey, athletic directors, coaches, athletic trainers, something you need to be aware of here. So we flagged it for you in that checklist. And if you look in the top right-hand corner, you also have this orange 1 icon in the top of this review screen. Again, just another indicator to you, hey, remember, there's something that John Apple has reported a yes answer here in the in his health history. And so we've got we've got this indicator here that lets us know that there's a 1, and that's X number of issues that we need to follow up on. So Clint, go ahead and click that 1 if you don't mind. What our software also does for you is it pulls out that answer, highlights that in red, and lets you know this particular individual, his parents went through, filled out this form, and they answered yes to question number 9. So not a big deal here. John's had muscle cramps. We all have at some point or another. But the reason this is important to have this flagged here for you is, what if it's asthma? What if it's sickle cell anemia? What if it's diabetes? What if it is some health, some health concern that we need to be aware of as we travel, as administrators, as athletic trainers, as coaches? So if it is some sort of issue that's very serious, well, we need to travel with a rescue inhaler. We need to make sure that we monitor this individual. There's a cause for concern that we need to be aware of as we travel. As a reminder on this, we flagged it here for you in the health history. We've given it to you here in this overlay screen. All of these forms also travel with you on your mobile device. So on your phone, there's a Dragonfly Max app that everything we're going through here today on the web through this checklist is going directly to your phone inside the Dragonfly Max app. So not only do we have it here on the web, but as our coaches travel, as administrators travel, as our athletic trainers and medical staff travel, we know that certain kids are asthmatic. We know that we've got their health history and consent forms. We've got emergency contact numbers. We've got all the information we need for this athlete now on our mobile device. So all of the electronic, the digital paperwork features that we've talked about before, and all the features and benefits of going digital inside the Dragonfly software, there's one more in that you don't have to carry that 3-ring binder of all these forms around with your kids now when you travel on the road. When you go to away events, and Clint's actually pulled up here some, what I'm talking about on the mobile device. So we'll toggle back in just a second, but Clint, if you'll go and pull up one of those kids' profiles and show how the information pulls in. So take a look at the take a look at the rosters here when they pull those in. So let's take a look at maybe John Clark or Terrell Test there. So all that information, of course, the forms are pulled in. And so we can see those documents on file there. So if we need to go and pull that up on the road, we can. Emergency contact information is pulled in here. And so I don't know that we have one here on this particular test athlete. But once the parents fill out that information for John Clark, it's going to pull in mom and dad's emergency contact phone number. Meaning, I hope no one watching this today is ever in this situation. But if you ever have an urgent situation with one of your athletes at an away event, you've got the emergency contact phone number. You come to John's profile here, tap that number, you can begin dialing mom and dad. So again, we'll go further into some of the mobile benefits here, but as we're talking around paperwork, as we're talking around carrying these documents with you, as we're talking about emergency contact information and urgent health information, just a reminder, we're doing everything that we can to flag that for you, to make sure that none of those kids get overlooked, to make sure that we travel with that information on our mobile device. Now, We'll toggle back over to the web here in just a second. I do want to remind everyone, and we'll say this multiple times throughout the presentations this week. But the device on your phone, I know for a lot of you, you're thinking, that's great that I've got a mobile app that travels with me on the road, but I spend a lot of time in basketball gyms that I don't have any network access or cell service. That's okay. Our app actually is designed to work offline for just those situations. I mean, all of us have traveling through back roads in Alabama and things of that nature. You hit places where you don't have service, but it's still important to have emergency contact information. It's still important to have those features on your phone. So just as a reminder, our entire mobile platform works even offline. So it'll pull all that information down. You'll still be able to access it. And even if you continue working and updating on your mobile app when you're offline, when you reach network access, when you reach Wi-Fi again, it'll send that information to the cloud and it'll still save. So you can continue to fully work from the mobile app when you're away from the school as much as you need to, even if you're offline. All right. So, Clint, let's take one of the athletes and go into their profile and kind of take a look at, one of the really important factors in the Dragonfly software is we've created this kind of, what we term shared experience. So this allows us to, one, it's helpful for training, but number two, it's helpful for you to know when a coach calls you and says, Mr. Administrator, Miss Administrator, I have an athlete that I'm not sure whether they're eligible or not. Can you tell me? Well, number one, you know how to go in and take a look at exactly what they're looking at. And number two, your answer at this point should be, you got it on Dragonfly just like I do. You can go and take a look at it. Same thing when the parent calls you and says, hey, has John turned in all of his paperwork? I don't know, Dad. What does Dragonfly say? So you've got the ability here to look through the lens of what does the coach see? What does the parent see? Of course, you as the administrator are looking at this same view. So if you clicked on any of your athletes here, it lets you know, hey, we've got our contact information in. If they've turned in their insurance cards, you've got the images of that here and the proof of the insurance. If you move a little further over, we've got John's physical here on file. And not only do we have John's physical, we've got the date that John's physical actually expires. So we've got kind of a countdown clock on that. Again, that's one of the other features of our software is we've automated for you the tracking of every single individual's physical and when it expires. We actually have that. We'll go back in a minute and take a look on the checklist when we finish here on the kid's profile. But we're actually giving that countdown for you on that checklist as well. But again, you get a call from a coach. You get a call from a parent that says, has John completed all of his paperwork for the 2021 school year? Are we ready to go? Can we compete? Well, you can click on John's name. Number one, you'll see it in that checklist. But number two, you can click on John's name and actually go in and see that, no, John is 78% complete. So let's click on that a little further and take a look at, this is actually what the parents will see when they go in and they complete their profile for their kids. This is the list that they're working from. So they also see this exact same view. The coach sees this exact same view. And they're working from this list and they're getting immediate feedback. So when they update their medical and demographic information for the year, it's going to give them a thumbs up, you're done, congratulations, and then they'll move on to the next form. And so it rolls them directly through all of the forms and the eligibility paperwork, completing that, turning that back into you, and then giving them feedback on is it done or is it not. So if you needed to go in and help a parent, let's say they call you and say, I'm having a little trouble on the transportation form. Can you go and take a look and see if, am I missing something? Am I overlooking something? So you could actually go into that kid's profile as an athletic director and see the same thing that the parent is seeing, see the same thing that the coach is seeing. So that's kind of what we mean by shared experience. Everyone's got these profiles. Everyone's filling out their paperwork. Everyone's completing their requirements. They're getting this feedback, and we all can kind of in this collaborative shared environment work through and kind of help ourselves with the feedback and the troubleshooting. So we can see here that John's 78% complete. He's got 7 out of his 9 requirements completed, and the parents, again, just have a green icon that lets them know, hey, you're good on this requirement. Nothing else left to do. But any of those left in red, Clint, go ahead and click on one of those. And so the parent can just go straight to that requirement, click on it, and they've got options here for, do they want to fill this out electronically? Do they want to upload the document? Do they want to maybe print a blank copy of it and fill out the hard copy? Or maybe they have already filled this out, uploaded it into their computer, and they want to choose a form that they filled out maybe for last year because this is moving forward into this year, one of those documents. So they've got options here. So I will take this opportunity for those of you that are listening in, watching today, thinking, so I only have the option to do this digitally. I only have the option to have my parents fill out electronic forms. And you've already ticked off in your head, I know of at least 6 parents that are not going to do that. I'm never going to get any compliance. It's never going to happen. What do I do about those? So obviously our software is designed to work optimally when you do this digitally. When the parents fill this stuff out electronically, because you send home the instructions and then they just fill it out electronically, it comes back to you and lets you know thumbs up, thumbs down, this kid's ready to go. However, we know that's not the case for all of you, and definitely not the case for all of your parents and all of your guardians of your athletes. So very quickly, the different ways that you can get information into the system, and I'm glad that Clint has left this on the screen here. You have, of course, the ability to fill it out electronically. But what if that doesn't work? Your other options here. Number one, you can do what you've always done. You've got a packet of printed information. You send that packet of information home with your parents. They fill out those hard copy forms, and they can bring it back to you, in which case, again, you've got this same look, this same view here as the parent would have. So you scan those forms in, you hit upload a document, and you select that document from the ones that you just scanned in. So there's one option. Another option is take that hard copy packet of information send it home with the kids, give to their parents, they fill it out, and the parents then can scan that document in and upload that information into the system. Now, for a lot of you, again, you're thinking, that's still a lot of work. That's a lot of scanning. The parents won't have a scanner at home. Again, understand there's still other options. So as opposed to scanning it in, those hard copies, send it home, scan it in, again, remind you of the mobile app. This all can be done digitally from the mobile app, but also you can send that hard copy paperwork home, have the parents fill it out. They'll go to the kid's profile on their smartphone, snap a picture of that information, and upload it. And then they don't have to have a scanner, but that document then comes back to you for approval. Last option, send all that stuff home. It comes back to you after parents have filled it out and signed it. And then you, as a coach or an administrator, can snap a picture from that kid's profile on your phone and upload that for the transportation form or upload that for the physical form. And so you can do all that from your mobile device. And again, that saves you from having to scan it in, save it to a file, pull it over. And so you've got plenty of time to do that. So Clint, if you want to toggle over, we'll show you very quickly. I know that we've got the mobile device here. Not sure if we have the capability of toggling back over to that computer. So Clint, if you've got it here and you want to show us uploading of the paperwork on a mobile device, just very quickly to walk through. No, we can't get toggled to that one. That's fine. We'll see. There we go. Thank you. So if in the event that the paperwork goes home and you or the parent need to take a picture of that paperwork and upload it. Again, you go to John Clark's profile, and there's a camera icon in the bottom right-hand corner of the profile. You'll tap that icon. It'll pull up the camera. It'll ask you, do you want to take a photo, or do you want to, again, pull from a photo you've already taken? So you get a little picture here of what we're working with our control room. So hey, there's the team from Central High School helping us out. So thanks, guys. But we can take a picture of those forms right there, upload them into that kid's profile, and it's actually going to ask you, hey mom, hey dad, hey grandparent, hey administrator, hey coach, what are you trying to actually upload here? So we can choose, this is a physical, this is the birth certificate, this is an insurance card. So again, it'll match up with your particular forms at your school. And then obviously maybe they're uploading some sort of injury documentation or things of that nature, but maybe this is the summer conference certificate that's being uploaded. So you got Clint uploading that. So there's a picture of summer conference. Now that goes directly into the kid's profile. It matches up with that checklist that we had back over on the web. And a couple of different items here. Obviously this is stored. It's in their documents and files forever. So if you ever need to go back and reference it, go to the kid's profile and pull it back up. But a couple different items here on getting things into the system through this method. If we can toggle back over now to the web, I do want to show you kind of depending on which of those routes you use, then let's go back and take a look at the checklist very quickly, Clint, so I can show Couple of different items and feedback that's coming in here to this checklist. If you look at those red exclamation points that are beside some of those kids' names, that happened because rather than filling this out electronically and digitally, the process that we just went through, well, either the parent scanned that in and uploaded it, or the parent took a picture of it and uploaded it and sent it back to you. Either way, obviously with not doing it digitally, we can't verify that, yep, that's on the correct form, if they filled it out completely. So we can't verify all those things if it's done on that hard copy paper version, but we can alert you to the fact that, hey, this needs approval. So you see that red exclamation point, that lets you know, hey, Seth has uploaded a document here. Let's go ahead and click on it and see if we can approve that document. So, hey, they did manage to upload a birth certificate here. However, it's a blank birth certificate. So that's not going to suffice. If it comes to eligibility time, if we got an investigation, this is not going to fly with the auditors. So we would come to the bottom of this screen. If you look at the bottom of it, we have the ability to either approve that document, or in this case, we reject it. So very quickly, Clint, if you want to click reject, what this allows you to do as a coach or as an athletic director is reject it, give a reason for why it has been rejected, and that'll send it back to the parent with an alert that lets them know, hey, good job on all the other paperwork, but you're still not eligible because we don't have a birth certificate for you, or we don't have your insurance card, or we don't have your participation form. So go ahead and hit that reject button. Sends a notification back to the parent. Obviously, you've got your status here in the overlay screen. Click that X to kill that, Clint. Back over in this checklist, you see that the icon there has changed on that particular document, and that lets you know, all right, that came in. I took a look at it as a coach and as an administrator, and I rejected that document, so I'm done. So until that icon changes back to this needs approval, I've done what I need to do there. And for the parent, so Clint, if you'll click on Seth Avett, go back into his profile. Remember, they've got this checklist just like you do on the kid's profile, and it gives them feedback, so go ahead and click on that. That message that you just typed in about the birth certificate and how it needs to be redone, and you rejected it and why, lets the parent know right there in that screen with that feedback. Hey, it's been rejected. Here's the reason why it was rejected. You submitted a blank birth certificate. We need you to actually put a real birth certificate in there. So again, the parent can come back, they see it's rejected, and they go back through that process if they need to. Again, uploading a document, filling it out electronically, taking a picture from their phone. So I know that was a lot of information, but as a quick review, the various ways that you have to get information into the system, easiest and best way for everyone involved, have the parents fill the paperwork out electronically. You can also send the hard copy paperwork home, have the parents complete the hard copy, scan it, and upload it. Have the parents complete the hard copy paperwork, take a picture of all that paperwork from their phone and upload it. You can also send that hard copy paperwork home, have them bring it back to you, and then of course you as coaches and administrators have the option to either upload it, by scanning it in, or by taking a picture from your phone. Now, those are the ways to get the paperwork into the system. I do want to show you, if we go back to that checklist, Clint, there is one other option for maybe some of those special circumstances. Things like birth certificate are a really good example for a lot of you. So this is probably something that they may have pulled, the kid's been in your system since kindergarten. And they've got this sitting at the central office. Parents don't want this online anyway, so we see this a lot around the birth certificate, where you can actually go into, let's look on Jason Jones there, the one that's blank. Let's say that Jason Jones' parents have said, I don't want any of Jason's paperwork online. That's going to happen. We have that happen all the time. Completely understandable. We've got a workaround for you on that. So click on that empty check mark. It pulls it up. Obviously, this kid has not filled out this requirement. We saw that it was an empty label in that checklist. But we can make a little note here. So go ahead and click that, Clint, so we can actually come in and we'll go ahead and approve that we've got this particular document on file, even though we're not putting it into the system electronically. So we can just make a quick note here that, hey, we've got birth certificates on file in the office, so that when the auditor comes in, or when you go back to review it, or you as the athletic director did all of this stuff, and the coach comes behind you to check and make sure their players are ready, well, you've made notes back and forth with all the coaching staff to let them know, hey, they turned all this other stuff in, but we don't have it in the system because parents requested that we didn't put the information online. No problem at all. come in, approve that, you can override it, and then you and your coaching staff know, hey, if we got to go pull records for Jason Jones, those are going to be in the AD's office under lock and key, and we'll have to go pull those if needed. So those are the different methods for getting the paperwork into the system for athletes. Now, Clint, if we'll go back to the checklist, we're going to run not as long as we just spent on the athletes there, but let's go take a look at coach requirements as well. So we can toggle those buttons across the top, and as Clint does that, I'm going to grab a sip of water. So everything that we just talked about from an athlete and eligibility, turning in paperwork standpoint, ditto for your coaches. Again, coaches, every coach needs to have an account in our system. So the expectation would be that a coach also fills out his or her own electronic documentation. They're gonna want to do this. I think most of you coaches on this call, you're definitely going to want to do this because you're going to get your credential digitally through the Dragonfly app this year. So I think that's a little extra incentive to make sure that you get your profile completed here. But for ADs, administrators, coaches, just like we talked about on the athletes, we have a checklist here of every single team or all of our coaches, and it lets us know exactly where we stand in that process. This is really helpful. Obviously, we talked about on the student-athlete side from tracking expiration on things like physicals and things of that nature. Same thing here for your coaches. We're going to have this checklist that's going to let you know that this particular coach's, you look across Robert Balt there, this particular coach's CPR card expired May 18th of 2018. So they're living on borrowed time at this point. They need to get that CPR certification done. But we're the coach, obviously. So if we look at Robert there, where the expiration date is on the CPR card, then you've got the exclamation point that tells you, hey, something's there that needs approval. And so we can click on that and we can pull it up. And just like we could on the athletes, we take a look at what's there. Unfortunately, Robert is a clown, and he put his sportsmanship certificate in the blank for the CPR certification. So Robert is going to have that document rejected by you as the athletic director. You're going to send that back to him and have a little chat with him about, Robert, we got to send you through that CPR course, man. You got to get that certificate in. We can't allow you to coach without that. So we are not only pulling that information in, counting down until when it is expired, but we're alerting the coaches of those things too. So they will know where they stand in their process. They can go into their profile just like a kid can or a parent can for an athlete and see, I'm 80% of the way done, or I'm 30% of the way done, or I'm 100% done. And just like the kids on that we were talking about earlier, when, hey, if the name's red, they're not good. They're not eligible for some reason. Same thing for the coaches. So if they're in red, that lets you know the coach is still missing something. We've still got to get something turned in for this coach before they can be eligible. There's a good example of the Dragonfly admin, that account there at the top. You can see that particular individual has turned black, and so we've got the ability now we could actually principal certify that individual. So that lets us know, hey, they're completely good to go. Same thing on the athlete's side, except for they'll have some academic information, obviously, that'll be pulled in. But once that kid's name turns black, that lets you know eligible, and we are now to the point that we can principal certify and roster that individual. So, Clint, if you want to go ahead and toggle over and show us what that looks like. After we go through kind of this eligibility process, I'm going to show you guys there are other features to our setting up eligibility and requirements. We're going to show you how to set up your custom forms. But we've reached kind of all right, this particular person is eligible. So we've got Arnold athlete in this checklist. Turned in all their information, physical's good to go, we've got their academics hooked up, that's running, they're eligible, and so now we can come in first and principal certify this individual. So again, you will not be able to principal certify an individual in this checklist where their name is red. If you get that feedback there. So we go to Arnold, we must first principal certify them, and then after they are principal certified, then they are eligible to be rostered. So again, it won't let you those are step-by-step processes. So they must first get all of their eligibility paperwork in. They must be academically eligible. At that point, the name will turn black, and they will be able to be principal certified. And then the final step, obviously, will be to roster that individual for your varsity baseball team, for your varsity volleyball team, for your varsity softball team, whatever that happens to be. And then we've got a record there, obviously, that this kid has been both principal certified and rostered. Okay, let's now move into so you're moving into this new world where you've got all your paperwork is coming in digitally, and you're trying to use this system. And you got all your AHSAA paperwork that's going to be there. We're going to curate all that for you. We're going to have all that set up for you. We'll put the new forms in. But for a lot of you, you've got 3 or 4 custom forms for your school district, for your particular school, maybe even per team. So maybe you're on this, you're on the broadcast here and you're watching, and you as a coach have a particular handbook that you want your parents and your kids to sign that says, hey, everything I say is right and you never question me, and sign here at the bottom saying that you agree. All that type of stuff, you've got the ability to set up those custom requirements, even if they're not even tied to eligibility. But you can set up your own additional custom forms inside our system in one of 2 ways. So let's go and take a look first at that Setup Eligibility and Requirements tab. So you'll notice it's right beside the Setup Teams tab. We're kind of working our way across that blue band at the top of the screen. So let's click on Setup Eligibility and Requirements. What you'll see here is obviously a listing of all of the requirements for your athletes. We can toggle over and take a look at all the requirements for the coaches. The top of that list will always have the AHSAA requirements, the things that they have put forth that says if you're going to participate as a student athlete in the AHSAA, you must have these things on file. And again, we will lock those. You can't change them, can't edit them, can't switch the order. We've gotten very strict orders from the association. They got to have this stuff in. Don't touch it until we send you the board-approved forms for the next year. So we will keep all those curated and updated for you for both your athletes as well as your coaches. But in addition to that, you can add your own custom requirements here. So if you need to add a requirement, you can see for several of we've already in our demo account here, we've added several requirements like the transportation form for all athletes. That's going to be something that probably across the board with every school system. If you're going to travel with this kid, you got to have a transportation form or a travel consent form on file for that kid. And it's likely that at your school district or at your school level, that is very specific language that only applies there, and it can't be some generic travel consent form. It has to be your language for your district, from your legal staff. And that's fine, no problem at all. We've given you a way here inside our software that you can build those custom forms. So, number one, you can go and add a generic requirement from out of our just kind of, hey, here's a bunch of forms that we've built and that other schools and other states have built. So we hit add requirement. And we can add a few of the different kind of default pre-selected requirements from here. Again, birth certificate, insurance card, school fee. So we'll get back into that later, but we do have a commerce platform here so that you can collect your team's fees, for your participation fees or your cleats or your uniforms or shorts and spirit packs and things of that nature. We'll take a look at that in one of our later sessions. But you do have the ability to assign your team fees and collect those digitally at the same time that you pull your paperwork in from your parents. So they go through, fill out the paperwork for HSAA, fill out the paperwork for you, pay their fee, and they do all of that on the same screen, and it'll report back to you in that checklist. So again, we'll cover the kind of the school fee stuff here in just a bit. But again, once you hit add requirement, you can select from any of our kind of the forms that we've set up there, just kind of generic transportation or participation treatment consent. Choose from those, take a look at them if you'd like to. But again, for a lot of you, it's going to need to be in your specific language for your specific school district. So let's go and take a look now at, well, what if you don't have a form that covers me in that add requirement? What do I do then? Well, we've got a custom forms designer inside our software where you can build all of your own custom forms. And it'll add it to this list once you're done. But we can go and build them our own with our own custom language, put our own logos on there, put our own signature boxes. And to do that, we'll exit out of the add requirements and we'll go back over on our screen here just below where the schools and people is, and you see where it says Forms Library. We'll click on that. And again, because we've got you set up here through the AHSAA, you've got the AHSAA forms here. You've got the different forms that you've created in the past or maybe that other members of your school have created. So, for those of you that are spring sports, you may benefit from one of your AD went in or your coach went from one of the fall sports went in and set up one of those handbook or participation forms So you may be able to go and just pull from what they did, change the language a little bit, but you've got this forms library here. Let's say that you've got to create your own fully custom from scratch, and you need to do that here inside the software. Go to your forms library, hit that new button, and then of course if you're a part of multiple different schools or organizations, you'll select, hey, which one am I working with here in this particular form, or with this particular form. And this is going to pull up into what I think for most of you is probably a pretty familiar setup. A lot of you I know that use Google Classroom. And this particular forms designer is set up to mimic Google Docs as much as we possibly can, just because, hey, it's simple, it's intuitive, it's easy to use. But this allows you to come in and you can type your entire form from start to finish if you want to. You can add your own custom logos, and again, you can, for a lot of you, if you're like me, you're going to want to make sure everything's lined up and centered, and put your school logo on there. Or maybe you've got this form already in a Word doc, in a PDF. You don't want to go through the hassle of retyping it, things like that. No problem. That's fine. You can go in and actually copy that text from that form and paste that here into the forms designer. But the one thing, the most important thing probably that you need to know from this forms designer is if you do that, if you go that copy and paste route, you will have to take some of those fields that pull in, where the parent has to write their name typically, or have to write the athlete's name, or put dates in here, or select their particular sport, those types of fields that you have on your forms right now, you're going to need to change those to electronic fields. To do that, let's say you've copied and pasted your team rules here, as Clint has thrown together a quick form for us, but we need to change that blank because then parents aren't printing this off anymore. We need to turn this into a digital form. They need to be able to fill this stuff in electronically. In that case, you highlight all those static fields that in the past the parents would have had to write in those blanks or sign it or fill it out. Highlight it, go to the Insert Field tab up at the very top, and then select the type of field that you would like to drop into this forms designer. So if it is an athlete that you're having sign this, you'll obviously go to the athlete portion, select that, hey, we need to drop the athlete's first name in here, drop it in. We'll go back in to put in the athlete's last name, drop that in. And Clint, if you go back into that insert field and just we'll walk through the different, go ahead and click on insert field up there. So, I say this on a lot of the demonstrations, but within reason, you can create pretty much any custom form here that you need to, that you'd like to. So we've got the different fields where, again, Clint just put in that blank where it's an athlete's name. We could put in a parent name, or we could have a school drop-down list. Again, maybe you're creating this form once for your entire school system, and you want to have a school drop-down. You want to have yes-no answers, date pickers, signature blocks. You want demographic information on athletes, on parents, on your coaches. So again, I'm sure all of you could think of one or two ways that we don't cover all of your needs, but within reason, you can create really any custom form here that you need to. So Clint is going through now and adding the signature boxes into this form. And so now we've got our school selector. Well, we know exactly where this athlete, which school they're filling this out for. We've got the athlete name. We've got the signature box. And so now this form is ready to be sent out to all of our athletes or parents, or maybe athletes and parents or whomever. Maybe this is a form you're filling out or having your coaches fill out. But when we're ready to make that assignment, we got our form just the way we want it. We go to the top right-hand corner, click Assign, and then we select the members of our school that we want to assign that form to. So again, this can go to all athletes. Maybe you want it to go to coaches as well. You want the coaches to sign a code of conduct, or you want the coaches to sign some sort of travel consent or things of that nature. But we go in and select the exact audience that we want to send this form out to. And so maybe it's all teams, all athletes. Again, Clint has highlighted here, maybe it's just varsity football. You as a coach want to send this out specifically to one team. Select the number of your audience, essentially, for this particular form. Select whether this is going to be required for eligibility, or whether this is just a form that you're going to have them fill out. Let's use the example of you set up your band team, and you've won sectionals, and you're headed to state, and you are traveling for that, and you need to. It's not really related to eligibility, but you want to make sure you've got that on file for every member of your band. So then that's a case where it's not really related to eligibility. They don't have to have it to participate, but if they're going to go on this trip, you want to have that on file for them. Or you can say that, no, I know the AHSAA has these number of requirements, and I'm going to have 2 more. And the kid's not going to be eligible to participate at my particular school until they've turned all of my eligibility forms in on top of what AHSAA requires. Either way, you make your selection on who's your audience, who's this going to, who are we sending out, who needs to fill this form out. When you're ready to send it out, you click Assign. Make sure you verify who you want to send that out to. And now, kind of going back to the beginning of this, when we hit that Assign button and it goes in as one of our requirements, now when the parents go in to fill out that information, they create their kid's profile. They're going to fill out all of the HSAA requirements, and then they're also going to fill out your particular school's requirements as it relates to eligibility. And back over into this checklist, that kid's, you're going to see that it'll add different filters and boxes into this checklist to let you know, hey, all the HSAA requirements, they're here, but so are your requirements for your specific school. So again, just makes it a little easier to streamline. We're doing it all digitally. We're doing all of our custom forms. We're doing the HSAA forms. Everything's going to be done here. And then again, back to what we spoke about earlier, is it's going to check it off here automatically as the parents fill that out. So there's an example of what the parents would see. So it'll automatically drop their name in. They can select their school and fill out that form. So there's an example of that custom form that we just filled out, or that Clint is filling out now. So, all right. So I think we've covered everything basically from the checklist standpoint. Again, just as a reminder here, you've got the different methods of inputting this information. We're tracking your physicals. We're tracking all of your coach standards. We've got countdowns for when it expires. That's sending out automated notifications. You got all the different indicators here for whether you got to approve a document or whether it's been rejected. So you've got kind of all those options here. One of the last things going to cover in this session here is your vault. A lot of you, I think, are already familiar with this. There's been some blasts sent out from the AHSAA about filling out some forms here. But to kind of give you a high-level overview of what the vault actually is, this is a document repository essentially of everything that you need to turn into AHSAA, all those forms like the All-Star nomination forms, all of the, like the postseason reports where you go in and you fill out, hey, we sold this number of tickets at this price, those gate splits that you fill out, the financial forms for AHSAA. And one that's come about recently is actually the selection for the fall sports of your officials associations that you'll be tied to, the ones that will be that you'll be sending in to select which association actually covers your events for assignment. Just as a reminder, remember that officials will be assigned in Dragonfly this year. Again, moving toward that kind of one-stop shop. And so for those of you that haven't, I'll take this a couple of seconds to plug, hey, if you have not yet filled out your Fall Sports Officials Association selection form, do that right now while we're on this call. Get that submitted to us because that's how we're going to select your officials for your contest. If we can't get you linked up with your officials for your contest, you won't have officials for your contests, which means you won't have contests. So if you can get that filled into us very quickly, it takes a couple seconds there. But that particular form is located in the vault. And for those of you that are trying to track along, Clint, if you don't mind, go back and click on the day page. Let me make sure I show them exactly how we got to where we are. So to get to the vault, you've logged in, you're on the today page. Again, as I said from the beginning, you'll click Schools and People, where you will spend a lot of time as an administrator. Across that band of blue, the buttons that are in blue across the top, we've gone to Set Up Teams, we've gone to Set Up Eligibility and Requirements, and now we click Vault. Again, this will be where you will submit pretty much all of your paperwork to the AHSAA. Clint, if you don't mind, pull up one of those Fall Sports Officials Association selection forms and go ahead and just kind of show how to fill that out. So if you don't see it in that initial list there, we can fill out another form. As he's doing that, you'll see in that drop-down list, this is a place where you can come through and submit your emergency action plan. So that's there and on file for all your coaches, for all your venues. Again, playoff financial reports. But let's go ahead and open that up if you don't mind, Clint. So as we pull that up, again, just like we created that custom form, or just like your parents were filling out digital forms in our forms designer or in that checklist when you sent that information home. You'll do the same thing here when you're submitting any of this paperwork to the AHSAA. So you come in, we'll select Dragonfly High School, select our local associations that will be covering those fall sports for our events. Go in, select them, sign it, and submit that in. Again, just as a nudge here, if you haven't filled that form out, please go ahead and fill those things out now and submit that back to us. Again, that's how we're going to connect you up to your contest officials and to your local associations. One final thing, in as far as if you see that Clint has gone in and used this filter, so if you imagine you use this vault for a couple of years and you're submitting different forms, and you need to go back and reference something that you turned in maybe back in 2018 on one of your coaches or one of your administrators, it could be a little tedious to try to find that form here, but we've put in some good tooling to allow you to sort these forms, to filter these forms down to, hey, I just want to look at my basketball postseason forms, or I just want to look at my audit forms, or any of that type of thing. I want to look at just forms that were completed on this date, so on and so forth. So if you're familiar with kind of sorting and filtering and searching in Google or Excel or something like that, again, kind of mimicked those toolings so that you can easily navigate this vault here to get to the forms that you need to. Again, by academic year. One final form, Clint, if you don't mind, go and pull up one of the AHSAA financial forms. We will, again, this will be another one that we'll talk about just a little bit, but this will be one, these are forms that typically in the past have been 4 or 5 step processes where you've had to go in somewhere, print this form, fill it out, hope you got the math right, pass it through 5 levels of checkoffs before you get to the principal to sign it. Then you gotta have an invoice or a check that goes along with that matches the ticket numbers. We're, again, trying to use this system, put those forms out there, put that in the vault, let you come in and just type the number of tickets that you sold, give us the ticket price, and let us do the math for you. So we won't make Clint fill out this entire thing here live, but again, you see an example of where we're trying to move with these digital forms inside the vault. And so once you fill all those in, the way that process now works, if multiple schools are involved, so example, in that financial form, you're a host school, you fill out your portion and sign it and complete it, and it's going to automatically alert that school that you hosted, hey, go check this out, make sure all this looks right, please go in the bottom and sign it saying that looks good to me. When both the home and the visiting school have signed that and consented that looks good, that sends it to AHSAA, and then someone like Miss Elaine goes in and she confirms, yep, math looks good to go. I will sign off on that. So then she will sign and say that's good, that we accept that. At that point, if you've got all the commerce fabric, again, we're going to talk about that later, but if you've got all your cashless school and your ref pay, you got all those things set up inside the Dragonfly system, your account's attached there, it's going to automatically disperse that money from the gate split as well. So the host school would get their portion, the visiting school would get their portion, AHSAA would get that portion. So again, not going too far into all of those items there we're going to cover later, but just, again, trying to paint the picture, one-stop shop here. We want to handle your athlete eligibility, your coach eligibility for you guys at the school, being able to submit your information to the AHSAA, scheduling your officials, all the things that we're going to talk about throughout the rest of our presentations. We want you doing that in the same software, not having to jump back and forth and do different things in different places. So with that, I'm going to kind of wrap up this eligibility and paperwork portion of the software. Again, we're thankful for the opportunity, thankful for all you guys that have helped us build this software over the last couple of years, and of course, very thankful and grateful to the AHSAA staff for having us down and continuing on and pushing forward with the summer conference. So again, thank you very much, and I'm sure I'm going to see you on another presentation today or tomorrow.